We got ourselves a broken arrow.
A broken what?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema podcast, the show where we go back to that blockbuster new release fall of our memory, we grab a copy off its shelf, we pop in our VCR, and we see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
Ain't it cool?
No, it is not, in fact. And together we're here to help you navigate all those landmines littered down memory lane. So Mike, I'm super excited. This is a long time coming this week.
Oh yeah, this has been a bug in my ear for a while.
Yeah, we're going to talk about one of my favorite Jimmy Stewart westerns from 1950. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait.
No, we're doing that one? No. Okay. Change of plans, gang. See you next week.
Sorry, guys.
All right. So we're good to be back in the chair again, Mike. How you been?
Pretty good. I just need you to yield me a minute or two of your time. I have a message for anyone who listened to our last podcast. Wanted to issue a slight apology to Francis Ford Coppola himself. I've kind of, in a way, maybe if you heard that podcast, and even if you didn't, we touched on the topic of having your daughter star in your movie for you, and kind of be part of the reason why people didn't like the movie. Just watched a movie called Trap at the theater a couple of days ago, and this is where my apology comes in, because there was a director that not only took that idea of having his daughter in a movie, but like amped it up times 10 to the third power. I mean, not only having your daughter in the movie, but having her kind of be the centerpiece of the movie and have her perform her own original songs. I'm guessing there must have been at least 12 or 15 of them in there that were written and produced by her.
That's it? 15?
Her acting skills were fine. They were not good, but they didn't take away from, what she was supposed to be. She was supposed to be this Taylor Swift like superstar, and but her songs are but yeah. So I just wanted to, like I say, I have seen much worse nepotism than we saw in Godfather 3 in our last podcast, and I, like I said, just wanted to it opened my eyes up a little bit, and I wanted to issue. It's not really a retraction. It's not really an apology. It's just it's a realization that there is much worse examples of nepism on screen.
Well, Mike, I'm always thrilled when you come to the realization that you've had some personal growth as a result of this podcast, and to share that with everybody, it warms my cockles. Yes,
and for an M. Night Shyamalan movie, it was meh. It wasn't his worst. It wasn't obviously his best, but it was meh.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate your sharing.
Sure.
Okay, so as we mentioned, we're going to talk about one of our favorites that's been in the grab bag for a long time. We've been essentially talking about this movie for 3 years behind the scenes, and we just decided it was time just to get out with it. We're going to talk about the 1996 John Woo epic, Broken Arrow.
Epic.
I can't even say it without laughing. So
yeah.
So let's just get right into it, man. So John Woo, we talked about him before. We covered a movie of his before, Face Off. He also did some really good movies called Mission Impossible 2, Hard Target, Jean-Claude Van Damme. One of my favorite movies for real, The Killer. He's done 47 films in total between here and Hong Kong. Never went to film school, Mike.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It's like Ferris Bueller would say, never had one lesson.
Never.
He's a tiny man, only 5'4". He likes to use a lot of symbolism in his movies, primarily doves, Mike. A lot of doves in his movies. I didn't see any in this movie, however.
What about butterflies or deer? Is that
it's something, alluding to the spirit leaving, being freed from the body. He got to use that.
Yes.
If you remember, the entire third act of Face Off was basically just a...
Is Broken Arrow, is it before or after Face Off?
After.
It was after.
Yeah, okay. This is his second collaboration with
Mr.
Johnny
Travolta.
T. We'll get into him here in a little bit. This was written by Graham Yost, who's wrote a movie we did as well, Speed.
Okay.
He did a movie we should probably cover at some point, starring this actor as well, Hard Rain. Did a lot of TV. He wrote the show
Yeah.
Herman's Head 100 years ago, early Fox show. Wrote Band of Brothers, which is one of my favorite things of all time. Got me to read every Stephen Ambrose book ever written. I did this series Justified. He wrote that as well, which is another one of my personal favorites. And a new favorite of mine, which I just started watching recently, called Silo, which is pretty good. Kind of a post-apocalyptic science fiction story. Really good. No one's watching it, but Rebecca Ferguson from Dune is in it as well. Good show. This had a $50 million budget, like $50 million.
I'm all for what, explosions and helicopters
And cigarettes.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking the sets themselves were there was no money spent. I mean, there's one set
No.
at the supposed, like, I guess below the White House or at the Pentagon. There's one little room in some air base in
Yeah.
Utah.
Mostly just
And
sand, and anything that wasn't sand, they blew
yeah,
up.
it's like okay, I know there was a lot spent on,
Yeah.
maybe some CGI and
Right.
stuff, but explosions.
Well,
It's a John Woo pick.
Not too much CGI. That's funny you mentioned CGI, Mike, because this was released on February 9th, 1996, but it was delayed 3 months because the visual effects shots were not ready in time. So,
For the
yeah. So this was
explosions,
the
the
early
wave.
days of CGI,
Yeah.
right? So there you go. So this was a fun one. Of course, we've talked about this movie in private for a long time. It's one of our favorites to goof on. And that's primarily, there's one reason for that, really, Mike, and I guess we should just get that out in the air. Let's go ahead and go through the cast.
It's funny, we were just joking right before we hit go on this podcast that there's not many names in this cast. You hear a couple last names and some nicknames, but a lot of these people are kind of anonymous Joes and Johnsons and Smiths,
It's a lot of that
But
guy.
in-
Hey, it's
yeah,
that guy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But our cast includes a ex-NFL jock from the Raiders, Howie Long, the stupid police chief from Demolition Man, the guy from the Shawshank Redemption.
Yep.
Guy whose last meal was a big Kahuna burger in Pulp Fiction. Kind of playing a John Cusack role in this movie.
That's exactly what I thought. That's weird. Yeah.
Delroy Lindo, who we saw him eating his treats in Congo and trying to catch Dallas and stealing a Shelby.
Sesame cake free in this one.
That's right. We had the dad from That 70s Show who was killed by RoboCop. And we had Mr. Kruger from Seinfeld making a reappearance. That was good.
Can't get enough of Kruger.
We had some eye candy named Samantha Mathis.
Yep. Very cute. Very cute.
Don't know how she makes a living. We had a grown-up Christian Slater with the his scowl of Jack Nicholson, and he somehow survived a bite from Tom Cruise, and
That's right. Yeah.
to make this movie. But I want to talk about Turl from Battlefield Earth, John Travolta himself.
Best to last.
It hit me while I'm watching this that he's not an actor, and I know that sounds silly, but he's a showman.
I had the exact same thought driving home. I thought, what can I say that Mike's not going to say? And you beat me to it. So
I mean, you think of like Christian Bale or Brad Pitt,
yeah.
some of these method guys that are like really getting to their role, and we've seen examples of it in some of our podcast movies, but he doesn't care. He's just that guy. He's just that, this is the same guy we saw in Face Off when he was, when Nicolas Cage took over his body. I mean, it's the same role. My wife was saying that too.
He's done two things. He acted in Pulp Fiction and he was brilliant. But everything else, he's acting.
Acting! Brilliant! Thank you!
Yeah. I mean, Saturday Night Fever, and this is the Kevin Costner thing all over again for me. It's like the early days, you're like, okay, it's not bad. Boy in the Bubble, put that aside, it's a stupid movie. But Saturday Night Fever, he's actually really good. Like I said, Blowout was one of my like hidden sleeper movies I really liked him in. And after that, he had that long part of his career where he was, in stupid movies like Perfect and Look Who's Talking Now. It's just silly stuff. And then, Pulp Fiction, like you say, kind of brings him back and you say, wow, he acted again. And then after that, you get like
90s Travolta was one thing.
Swordfish, Michael and Phenomenon were interesting, just because it was a non-villainous kind of scenery chewing role. But then you got Battlefield Earth, you got, like I said, this stupid movie here, Face Off, which is a better class of Broken Arrow, which
right.
We'll get into that. But like I said, it's for me. That's like you thought of. It's the first thing I thought of watching him on this movie was he's just hamming it up. He's just showing off. This is probably a list we can compile for another day of like actors that are like that, or I put actors in quotes. That just they're so hammy and showy that you forget that. Wow, okay, he's not really acting here.
At this point, I don't think he could help himself. I think he was just locked in. He was just going to do it this way.
Yeah,
but, it was probably he had to play this character up anyway, given the villainous role of it. So he learned to play villain, and
he took the face off guy and just like, let's just
that.
expand on that a little bit, and he amped it up a notch. I mean, if you can believe that, for people who saw Face Off and haven't seen Broken Arrow, imagine that villainous character, and like I said, more teeth, more cigarettes, and just amp it up by 3.
I'm going to sell my Nick Cage harder than Nick Cage.
Exactly. Well, there's the cast discussion.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. So John Woo has a 2-hour cut of this, was the original cut, and where he had a little more character development, but the studio said, no way, we don't need any of that. So it chopped down to 20 minutes were taken out of this. All the actors pretty much did their own stunts, if you can kind of tell. For the most part, not a lot of wigs here, Mike. I was a little disappointed.
They were,
I
was interested. Yeah, I like the slow-mo stunts where you can actually see Christian Slater's double. And he had two different stuntmen in this, if you notice closely. But that's the wigs and stuntmen thing is like that's what I've gleaned the most from this podcast is really analyzing, like, okay, stuntman back to normal actor, stuntman back. You really get to see these things when you.
So Jurgen from Mainz, who sent us that nice letter last week. We'll expect some follow-up correspondence on this one, please.
I hope so. I hope he's still listening. That's we are studying this stuff.
That's
closely.
right.
Don't worry.
Samantha Mathis did this, her own stunts as well. Christian Slater quit smoking because he knew we have to do a lot of physical activity, so he took one for the team here. Thank you, Christian. Travolta made $7 million for this role, so roughly 30% of the film's budget went to John. But it's his face up on the screen. That's what sells the tickets, I suppose. This had 60,000 rounds of ammo used. They enjoyed every one of those. This is the first movie famously featured on At the Movies with Siskel and Ebert, where Roger Ebert actually got Gene Siskel to change his mind to say this was in fact a bad movie. He gave this a thumbs down mid show. That had never happened before. I thought that was a funny story. He convinced him that this was a bad movie. You mentioned the show with the famous phrase, "Ain't it cool?"
You're out of your mind. Ain't it cool?
This was taken over for the Ain't It Cool website. This is the origin of that internet web page. So there you go. This features the music of Hans Zimmer again, Mike.
Yeah, you know what? I played a game with myself. I waited till the credits were rolling, and I listened to that closing song, and it had the guitar riffs. I was like, okay, wait, I think I know this. But then it had, the little harmonica that came in. I was like, okay, it's Hans Zimmer, and I predicted. I was like, oh my god, I was so proud.
Single-handedly keeping the guitar industry in business. Yes,
that guitar riff is pure Hans Zimmer.
So this movie has a documented over 100 continuity anachronistic errors. We'll get into a few of those as we go. The biggest one here is the title itself. They refer to a stolen nuclear weapon as a broken arrow, and I think the real vernacular uses an empty quiver. Mike? Any military guys out there, but they got it wrong.
I figured if there were still 2 warheads too, shouldn't it be broken arrows?
Good point, Mike. God lives in the details, Mike. I've heard that several times. The body count here was 28, and there were 9 F words, Mike. So that's pretty good balance. So as we mentioned, this came out in February, kind of a slow era for movies. That's usually in the middle of award season, and it's farthest away from the Academy. So I don't think they were shopping this for Oscar bait.
No, they knew it was a stink burger too, I guess.
Yeah. So this came out the same weekend as the ensemble comedy Beautiful Girls, which isn't too bad, I guess. The following week, you had a Happy Gilmore and Muppet Treasure Island. Same kind of demographic for those both, I think. The following weekend after that, you had one of my personal favorites, Jackie Chan's epic Rumble in the Bronx, which is a wonderful, wonderful film. 1996 was a good year for movies. Independence Day, which we covered, was the number one film that year. Followed closely by Twister, which is our first film that we covered. Mission Impossible, The Rock, another movie we covered.
I was going to ask you about The Rock. It seemed like
The Rock and Broken Arrow and Face Off all in the same year, man.
That's incredible.
We were so lucky. And then The Nutty Professor came in 5th. I think Broken Arrow came in somewhere around 17 that year. And this is the year that action epic The English Patient won the Best Picture for the Academy Awards that year.
Wow.
That was Elaine Bennis's favorite movie.
Yes, that's right.
Elaine, you don't like the movie?
I hate it! I'm going to hell!
All right. On the TV scene, Mike, we were watching NYPD Blue. And the Drew Carey Show was a big hit. The X-Files, of course. And the star of our previous podcast a few weeks ago, Michael J. Fox, Spin City.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that little show.
Well, much beloved show. On the music scene, Mike, we always like to talk about music. The number one song the week this movie came out was Wonderwall by Oasis. Followed closely by One of Us by Joan Osborne. I think much better covered by Mini-Me and Dr. Evil.
What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Blue, 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 blue. Yeah, blah, 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 blah.
Take that up later.
I wrote that, yeah.
Be My Lover by La Bouche. Probably remember that one, right, Mike?
The Mouth, yeah.
Yeah. Ironic by Alanis Morissette. I don't think that's about Dave Coulier. But she aired her grievances with ex-boyfriend way before Taylor Swift did. And Tonight's the Night by pint-sized rappers Crisscross, who like to wear their pants backwards for some reason. Those Daddy Max, Mike.
I'd like for you to jump. I was going to say 1996 too is there's a website. I feel bad. You could probably Google it, but rock and roll supposedly dies in 1996, and they have it narrowed down to a specific day when a particular album got released. And I'll get back to you on that. It's interesting. This is a guy that had an amazing theory that people stopped using like rock progression in rock chords. Certain chords weren't used after that.
Oh, I think I've heard of this.
Fascinating. Yeah. It coincides with a certain release date of something, and this is something I'm gonna look up now that I'm thinking about it. And I apologize.
Well, you're doing a lot of that today. I like how we cleverly tease our listeners that there's something coming up, and then the real reason we just forgot.
I'll circle back on this one for next podcast.
We should just call this podcast. We'll get back to you.
I tell you what, let's do the next movie will be set in 1996. We'll do The English Patient for the next podcast.
I'm in. Can't wait. All right.
So you got a Nutty Professor.
So some other things just I thought were of interest in 1996. Back then we were renting VHS movies and they weren't cheap. Like a copy of Rochelle would cost you $90, Mike. That was the standard going price before they became affordable. The first one that was priced affordably was Top Gun, and it was featured for a $27 price tag. You get a VHS of Top Gun. However, there was a catch. It included a Diet Pepsi commercial at the beginning of this.
Diet Pepsi. Great.
So there you go. The theory is reconfirmed, Mike. This is the year that Taco Bell put out an ad in all the major city newspapers that they purchased the Liberty Bell, and we were going to call it the Taco Liberty Bell. Well, right-wing media didn't get that joke, and they got in some serious trouble, but that's funny. And we were all doing the Macarena, Mike.
No. Some of us.
Some of us were.
Different stadiums.
I probably wasn't. I was doing much more embarrassing things, like watching this movie. So
yeah.
So,
I saw it, yeah.
I think we've kind of set the preamble here. I think there's nothing really much left to talk about. So you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, Mike, hit the button.
Woo.
Our movie opens up with lowercase E. Cummings font,
yeah.
Mike. Just a lot of lowercase stuff, and it's
no idea why.
Yeah, John Travolta is punching the crap out of Christian Slater in a boxing ring. So here's the first problem: real pilots in the Air Force aren't allowed to box. Mike, because of the
Oh,
potential
okay.
for head trauma or an injury. So they've already 30 seconds into the film, we've got our first significant error, but
I was
that's
going to tell
fine.
me that like Christian Slater's face showed like a lumpy watermelon after that, but no, he just had like a one slight abrasion on his eye.
Yeah, you get punched like 17 times in the face and no swelling. That's
Yeah,
pretty
that's pretty good.
resilient.
He's got
Yeah.
a face of Mike Tyson.
Yeah. So we get introduced to the two main characters here. Travolta is not a bad guy yet, but he's condescendingly teaching Christian Slater some boxing tips and telling him how to be a man and how to be a pilot.
Why they even friends? I
Uh,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
there's I mean, there's no like the only chemistry between them is toxic. They're like
yeah.
bleach and ammonia. I have no idea why they even teamed up on like
But
the same stealth.
they're part of the same flight crew and they've been there together for a long time. So I think
Yeah,
it's just implied that it's a friendly rivalry, but I don't know.
they should at least be playing volleyball on a beach or grilling hot dogs together or
Yeah,
something.
or endangering Goose in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. So they get tasked to go out and do a flight training mission for a B-3 stealth bomber. They're trying to test the weapon system to make sure that the nukes that they load don't glow. I think that was the thing, Mike. So they load up to
Oh,
these two
I got.
nuclear bombs.
I started hearing flight jargon. The only thing I remember was 61s. No, big ones, 83s.
Oh, the big ones, the 83s, Mike.
Yeah, all those 83s, man.
So
Whew.
there's two nuclear bombs on the B-3 stealth bomber, and they're going to take it out on a night run to see how well the stealth capability is. So that's our premise. And then that's where we get our heel turn, Mike. This is where
Oh
John
yeah.
Travolta goes bad.
Then you let the
And
camera zoom in onto his eyes, and he kind
oh,
of
it was
darts his
awful.
eyes just slightly.
Yeah. So he pulls a gun on Christian Slater and somehow manages to miss. And then they had this very clumsy fight scene where they're both sitting down strapped to the chair. It was basically a big
Yeah.
slap fight, like which I just loved.
The shooting choreography in this movie for a John Woo
Yeah.
movie was very, very poor.
Yes, it's awful.
You compare it to like Face Off, or even like you said,
Yeah.
some of the just normal Hong Kong movie fight scenes, like you've seen Rumble in the Bronx. The choreography of just fights and shootings was just like
Yeah. This was not
basically, and they're just terrible. If
it's
you like
like
that kind of thing.
yeah, this is for John Woo caliber. This is really bad.
Mhm.
Not too Americanized for sure. So he Christian Slater does a little ejectocito and jumps out of the plane after the plane's been compromised and the plane actually crashes. And this is where you get sent back to the government boardroom here, where we see that 70 show dad is the chief of staff. And guess what, Mike? He has to go wake the president.
Of course, yeah.
Because words got out that Christian Slater's going crazy. The last comms before the plane went down, Travolta says that he lost it, and then it's implied that Christian Slater's now a bad guy. But we know better, Mike. We know better. And I noticed right about this point, it was about 7, 8 minutes in, the Hans Zimmer music. I'd already had
Yeah.
enough of it by then. I was like, oh, it's
That was the
killing me.
one thing I remembered from this movie, and watching it almost 30 years ago was that Dwayne Eddy guitar riff there. Down, 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 down. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he probably needed some work. Was happy to work for it, but
Yeah.
they just overdid that damn guitar little down, down, down.
Yeah.
The whole movie is like, we get it.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
the scene cuts to the next day in the morning where 90s cutie Samantha Mathis is playing as a park ranger, and she comes across Christian Slater, and they find the first bomb. They have an interesting little fight scene before they had an actual relationship in Gleaming the Cube, Mike. They that movie, the skater epic. Then they met several years after their breakup to film this together. They both claimed it was very awkward.
Oh,
Cute, right? Reunited.
Yeah.
I love those stories. And then
Me too.
Travolta is found by the his band of renegade guys, including the
they're all ex-military guys
That's
that
right.
have the worst aim you've ever seen in life.
yes. So
We're talking Navy SEALs, probably Green Berets.
Oh yeah.
Tops of the top, and these
Yeah.
guys can't shoot straight. It's great.
No. So they this cabal of bad guys led by the warden from Shawshank Redemption. He's the money
Oh,
guy, and then
God,
Howie Long.
I couldn't wait for him to get killed off. I was like, just kill the little whining guy, please.
Yeah, Howie Long's part of this group too.
Howie Long. Great acting there.
But they're bad guys, and their plan is they're going to sell these nuclear bombs for a profit. It's a terrorist thing, so there you go. Or otherwise, they're going to blow up Denver. So they want all the money.
Justin, I got to tap out. I can't make it. This is too much.
Come on, I'm going to wrap it up. But there's not a whole lot left to talk about.
Okay, I'll just for you, just for our audience, okay. I'll suffer through. Okay,
this was your idea, City Jim.
I know. I regretted it when I was watching it. Don't worry.
All right, so the second act is essentially just them getting chased by Travolta to find that last nuke. There's a big extended set piece where they go into a 2,000-foot cave. Copper mine. The best part of this, Mike, is they take the river to escape. So this river flows 2,000 feet uphill.
Yeah, I was getting a little confused with the geography too. It's like, I love the convenient little cave map or the mine map they found.
Oh, sure, yeah. It's just like a mall kiosk saying "You are here." But essentially, Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis are just getting chased for the balance of the movie. They go back to a death spot where they're trying to load up the stuff. They put it on a train, and that's followed by this interesting scene on this train, Mike, because they introduced a certain amount of bad guys here, but it was unlike Die Hard, where there's like 20 guys.
Yeah,
they were just like self-generating out of the ground. Like every time you turn around, they created new bad guys for Christian Slater to shoot.
Yeah,
it's like when does it stop?
I thought, it got to a point where it's just him and Howie Long after they left the mine. I thought, okay, they're down to two bad guys. And then they meet the guys at the getaway boat.
Yeah.
And then the boat goes to the train, and then there's like a whole bunch of guys that are on this train. It's like, whoa, they disable the train crew, but why did they need like 7 or 8 of them?
But they just defy all physics and just spontaneously show up. It's great, but they'll get killed, so that's quick before you get a chance to know what they are, what they're doing. So that was fun. For our big finale, it's set on the top of the train, and they're punching each other, and Christian Slater, in an odd example of irony, finally learns how to throw a punch and starts fighting, and it ends with John Travolta getting impaled by the last nuke, Mike.
But he did it with a smile on his face too.
Yeah, not too far unlike
Nicolas Cage.
Cage's
he was ready for the big ride.
Yeah, he's ready. Nicolas Cage, but he only went into a coma and then got his face replaced.
That's right.
These are essentially just the same movie, just took a different. It's like that create your own book thing when you read when you're a kid, create your own adventure, where you jump to the next page and then this would happen. That's all this was.
You know what I would have done? I would have maybe had one of my I don't know, had more than one guy. Maybe try to manhandle this whole crew on the train. Maybe have some more military presence. You know what? How about this? Throw a grenade on the train track about, I don't know, half a mile ahead of the train and make it derail.
Problem solved.
Maybe not go to Denver where like millions of people would die.
They were just probably waiting for John Cusack to get there in the stolen Mustang.
And
wait, wrong movie. Sorry.
That brings me to Frank Whaley. He's playing like the John Cusack kind of character in this movie.
Yeah.
I expected him to show up at the very end and rescue them from the train, but his character had no arc to it. It was like they made this point of showing him flying in a plane and getting all the notes and being in contact, being the guy who came up with the plan. That it wasn't
right. I just realized that you never see him again, do you?
He had such a great setup, and then they were like, "Oh, you weren't really in the military, were you?" And then he became like this joke, and he was gone. He's like, "Okay."
It's like poor Frank missed the bus. We forgot Kevin.
Just like that.
So Travolta ultimately gets impaled, and then Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis have a romantic kiss, and then we're off for about 6 or 7 minutes of whining guitars and synthesizers, and then that's the end. That's the end, Mike. So there you go.
You forgot to mention the credits for it was a credit for Atomic Bombs by Rick's Custom Props.
God bless Rick. He's doing great work. You're doing God's work, Rick.
Some awesome work.
Oh boy. Broken Arrow, ladies and gentlemen.
It just
streaming now on Amazon Prime.
If you want to pay the $3.49, go
$3.49. Well
be
spent,
our guest.
buddy. Yeah.
It's worth a laugh. I would like to see that. You know what? It's not often I say this, but the extra 20 minutes that you said was left on the cutting room floor, it might have helped.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some resolutions we didn't know, or why they didn't want more military involved, and
Yeah.
were they trying to keep it a black bag operation? I mean, was this? I mean, it might have answered more. It's kind of like the Snyder cut. Maybe there was something we missed that was made it better,
Yeah.
possibly.
And I guess one thing that I'll never put out of my brain is I'm not a smoker, Mike, but I know what smokers are supposed to look like. And the way John Travolta held his cigarette in this movie, it was
Oh,
like
yeah.
he's like trying to high five you with the wrong hand because it's like his fingers are all spread out. He looked
It
like
was-
a Madam from Wailing Up Flowers and Madam. He's like,
Oh, it's pretty good.
like, do you not know how to hold a cigarette?
I was thinking when Bobby Hill was trying to smoke and he was holding it like a Nazi, and
He had to
his
smoke the
dad,
whole-
his dad admonished him for how the way he
Yes.
held his cigarette.
He had to smoke the whole pack
Yeah.
because he was hotboxing it. All right, I think we crossed it over just doing the show for us now, Mike. We should be
Yeah, I
on that.
know. If you're still listening,
If anybody's still there, we'll talk about awards and accolades now. So this had a $15 million opening weekend. Not terrible given the time. February, not bad for those days. Had a $70 million domestic haul, not too terrible. And again,
Well.
$150 million worldwide. That's mostly because of John Woo's influence on the international market, so not too bad. Shockingly, it did get an Oscar nomination for sound effects editing. It did not win. It got a BMI Music Award again for Hans Zimmer. I think Hans Zimmer owns the BMI Music Award.
oh my god,
Yeah, like he always gets that for some reason.
right.
Of course, MTV, Mike. MTV ate it up.
Best fight scene.
Travolta got nominated for, he got for best actor. He lost to Kevin Spacey for Seven. Was best action scene. It lost to Battle of Sterling and Braveheart, which is probably good. There was also a nomination for best fight between Slater and Travolta, but that was upended by Adam Sandler and Bob Barker for Happy Gilmore.
Good.
Of course, it was.
Yes.
And
How
this
do you
is
beat that?
this was the year that the totally irreverent MTV Music Awards gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Godzilla.
Really?
Yeah,
Lifetime. Oh, that's pretty good.
yeah,
And that's even before the Matthew Broderick movie came out.
that's right. That's right. This movie received mixed reviews from critics and audiences.
Only mixed, huh?
Mostly mixed. As I mentioned, there's over 100 errors in the film. We talked about a few of them already. There's no reason to kick this movie while it's down, Mike. So I think we should just move on. Let's put it through our Grumpy Meter. And the Grumpy Meter is a partners podcast where we talk about the first time we saw these movies as younger men, and then we review them again with a jaded eye as grumpy old jerks, and then we give them an opinion on how our feelings have changed. So, Mike, why don't you head us off?
Yeah, like I said, I did see this at the theater when it first came out. I guess February was a slow month if I was watching this. But I think I like Christian Slater as an actor.
Yeah.
I think that John, the reason people came to see it was the $7 million boy John Travolta in it. But it was wow. It's kind of like if Die Hard and Con Air dated, and then they met cliffhangers at a bar and tried to hook up with them.
Yeah.
If you kind of combine those three movies together, which hey, we've covered all three of those in our podcast. You get this, and then you strip out like half of it because this movie just seemed cheap. Like I said, it wasn't up. This is going to sound silly. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it wasn't up to John Woo standards.
No.
Like we kind of previously said.
I'm a super fan, and I can say that without.
Choreography was missing. Like I said, even the the biggest explosion of the movie is contained inside a copper mine.
If Christian Slater was Jackie Chan and you lose the romantic subplot, this movie would have been great because it has all the elements of like a super high adrenaline action karate film. But no.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's no one of those, let's just go from one set piece to another set piece, like it's, you add in Samantha Mathis and Howie Long's acting, it just kind of takes it down another notch. And a lot of stuff just felt cheap and surprisingly fast paced, but I think it was almost hyper paced in a way. And it's good for action, but it's not good for enjoying a movie for me at least. And just too many like they can't shoot at the nuclear weapons, but they can jostle them around, on this dirt road and have them bouncing all around,
Yes. Well,
and that you're like, again, you have military, ex-military, paramilitary guys that can't shoot Christian Slater in the back of this truck, but because they're worried about hitting the weapons that are below. We could go on and on, but anyway,
we have.
like I said, I haven't seen this movie since I saw it at the theater, and this one just kind of stuck with me since then. And there was a reason why this movie was really bad.
Yeah.
And I think after watching Face Off, maybe a few months after we saw this in the theaters, we probably forgot how bad this movie was. It kind of it washed it away, probably in some way.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as you, Mike. I watched this as a VHS rental way back when, and again, this is before I had a fully developed comprehension of what plot contrivances are, and I was much less cynical. As I just thought that I didn't take these things into account. So it didn't matter to me that none of this was plausible because I was just enjoying a movie, like a normal human being. But so I didn't really think a whole lot of it. Probably a 3 out of 5. It killed some time back in the 90s, and that's all it really took.
All right.
I watched it again. I had to do one of those things where I watched it really early in the morning by myself, and Christine's not going to watch this with this movie.
Well, I tell you what,
she likes Christian Slater, but nothing to do.
I just finished watching this with my wife, and she wanted to see it, and we got some great laughs out of it. So it worked as a comedy, like I say, you take Travolta on his own, and you watch it in a certain way, and he's legitimately funny in this movie, and he's supposed to be like an unhinged bad guy, but it's pure gold. It's comedy.
So that's the catch-22 of us not watching these movies together. As you guys may not know, me and Mike have never watched a movie together because we want to save our reactions for you for the first time. But this movie, watching it by myself, probably put my headspace in the wrong place. If I was watching this with you in the theater, we would be cutting up, and I would it probably taints my perception of the movie to some degree. Or if I watch it alone at all, instead of having this like goof on thing for 2 hours where we could be laughing constantly, I was basically just kind of frustrated and felt like I was just wasting my time.
Do you get mad watching it? Like, do you get angry?
Yeah. I got angry. I got angry, and I laughed a little bit because Travolta was just, I don't know what Travolta, talking through his teeth. I don't think his jaws ever opened once. I think he had a lockjaw, and
I didn't realize how big his teeth were until I saw.
He's got giant teeth, and he's smoking all the time. But he was laughable.
Yeah.
But I guess what disappointed me here is it's akin to Face Off and Con Air, but I didn't get the post movie rush I was expecting that I did from those two. This one it was bad. Those others were bad, but I came out of it laughing. This was just bad. I just came out of it like I didn't get that same kind of payoff that I was hoping for. So that kind of skewed it a little bit for me too.
Right.
So it's just not going to be something I want to watch again. But I will certainly, if this is ever played in a theater, you and me are going to go, and we're going to be sitting in the back row, and we're going to goof on it the entire time, and it's going to be the best time of our life. So, 50-year anniversary cut, Mike. We're there.
There you go. We're still alive.
It's re-release. Yeah, we'll be. I'm staying alive for this one. Don't worry. All right. So there you go. That's our take on it, guys. And again, remember, we treat these movies with the remembers they deserve, good or bad. We have claimed that this is a bad movie. It's not necessarily the case. It just means we don't like it. We don't think there's ever movies that are bad. There's movies you don't like. And
I think the cast involved in making of this movie would probably have agreed with us that they didn't. This movie was not that good.
But please don't take our
don't.
If this is a movie you enjoy, like any other occasion, please don't take a personal affront to your. We're not challenging your value system or questioning your taste. This is just what we do, and we have a podcast, and you don't. So there you go.
And if you think Samantha Mathis is attractive in a park ranger outfit, hey,
I do.
There you go.
That's a fantastic segue, Mike. So this movie featured '90s ingenue Samantha Mathis, and it got me and Mike thinking about an interesting concept about all these '90s ingenues that have moved on to bigger or better things or kind of disappeared. But we thought for this week's installment of You Just Made the List, Pal, we do our best to not sound creepy or misogynistic and kind of reminisce and talk about our favorite 90s ingenue it girls, our favorite ones, and then maybe talk about why we admire them or what happened to them and all that kind of thing. So, Mike, let's do three and an honorable mention or two. So let's get started. Tell me about your favorite 90s it girl.
Well, first of all, I have to get a 0 on my homework because I went with girls from the 80s.
That'll work too. That'll work too.
Yeah, I realized when I started thinking of these that I was thinking of movies that I saw when I was a teenager.
That's what we're trying to capture.
Like
girls of our youth, Mike.
These are movies I saw on HBO over and over and over again, and I was like, oh my gosh, these. And I couldn't get them out of my mind, so I thought, okay, well, let's do these three.
So and, there's a trigger warning involved. When we get close to misogyny, I will hit the buttons.
No. The reason these women were on the screen was because they were attractive. So there's no misogyny here.
Fair enough.
My first pick was Kelly LeBrock.
Nice.
Famous 80s lady. She knocked us out with her beauty and Weird Science. And then she, made us, well, and before that, I think she made us laugh with Gene Wilder and Woman in Red.
There you go. Great one. Yeah.
And then she married Steven Seagal.
And that was that.
That was that. She had a brief moment in the sun. She was in a couple of his movies and she's kept acting. But after that little, peak in the mid 80s, it just went away.
That was it, right?
She was beautiful too. Actually, she still is.
Yeah.
But, that would be my first choice. Would be Kelly LeBrock.
That's a good one, Mike. All right. So one of my favorite from my youth was the actress Laura Flynn Boyle. She had a very kind of dark, seductive type presence on the screen, but had a bit of a like girl next door charm to her. She was really good as Donna on Twin Peaks. Was kind of the it girl for a while. She spent some time dating Jack Nicholson, which is super creepy.
And Harrison Ford too.
I want to say yeah, but she famously played the crazed ex-girlfriend in Wayne's World. It was a great role there as well. Kind of fell out of acting. She was villain in Men in Black 2. And that was kind of like her last major role. And she made a series of odd choices and had some odd plastic surgeries, and it's kind of fell out of the limelight. But I always thought she was a bit of a 90s seductress for me. So that's my first one, Laura Flynn Boyle.
Nice.
All right, back around to you, Mike. Your second pick.
My second would be she's a little more, unknown maybe, but Rachel Ward.
Oh yeah.
She was fought over in Against All Odds, which had Jeff Bridges and James Woods in it.
The Phil Collins song, right?
There you go. That the closing song or a closing credits was just her face. The whole song is just amazing. Yeah. It's kind of like a Sinead O'Connor video. Yeah. And she was also in before that she was in the Thornbirds. She was a seductress of Richard Chamberlain's girlfriend in that movie.
Yeah.
And after that, poof. She still acted. I think she even went into directing, but not really like a big name afterwards.
That's weird. I looked her up not too long ago, and she looks great. I think she's in her late 60s. I don't. I'm gonna go in the real obscure thing here, Mike. But there was a movie on HBO way back when, one of their first original movies called Fortress.
Oh, she was like, she had
an Australian film where she was out in the outback with these kids, and they get kidnapped by these.
The poster she has that spear in her hand. I love that.
Yeah, that freaked me out as a child because that was a really dark subject matter. But I remember she was pretty good. All right, so that's a great pick, like Rachel Ward. So my next pick is going to be along the same lines. I'm going to stick to the 90s because that's fresh in my brain. But I'm going to go with Fairuza Balk, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
She always struck me as like the weird emo goth girl. I think she's idolized by a lot of the goth community still to this day for her role in The Craft.
The Craft, that's it. Yeah.
And she's her dark eyeliner, her savage attitude, the dark hair, the dark eyes. She was always kind of like one of my outsider girls that I just thought was cool. I think the last thing I remember her being in of any significance was The Waterboy, where she gets famously harassed by the Waterboy's mom,
Kathy Bates. Yeah.
And I like the scene where she tells him, "Your feet stink," and the Veruza defends him because man's feet's supposed to stink. And she making the water boy fall instantly in love with her. But Veruza Balk's always one of those actresses I just thought was really kind of cool. Kind of like a Helena Bonham Carter vibe for me, Mike. You know my feelings about her. So that's my next pick, Veruza Balk.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with my honorable mentions, I'm going to just go through various stars from the 70s and 80s that were men that were, what would you call flash in the pans, maybe? Leif Garrett, he comes to mind. Sean Cassidy. Oh, I hated that guy. Rick Springfield. Okay, I'm kind of going in the music field here, but let me just go back to TV. And Ricky Schroeder, Gary Coleman. My gosh, how big was he in Different Strokes and a couple of Disney movies? And he became a security guard. And then Benji the lovable dog. He was so big in the late 70s, early 80s, and he just various Benjis that kind of came and went. And you ask a millennial or a kid today who was Benji, they would be like, nah.
What?
And then my ultimate like flash in the pan would be Kaja Gugu, the one-hit wonder.
Lamal.
Too shy.
Oh boy, look at us.
But my third pick is a lovely lady, Kelly McGillis.
Nice.
She took our breath away in Top Gun.
Oh, you went there, didn't you?
And she played Amish in The Witness, and she was Jodie Foster's, slutty Jodie Foster's lawyer in The Accused. And she kept acting after that. Not a lot, but those 3 roles there. Other than that, everything's like a grade B movie or just a bit part in some mainstream movie. But Kelly McGillis was, just for that brief period in the mid 80s again. Like I said, I had this like just time period of this. They just all came and went. That would be my third pick, Kelly McGillis. There you go.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Hopefully we do Witness sometime soon. So
yeah, we'll probably get to that. I think Molly recommended we do that a long time ago. We probably owe her to do that. So, all right. So my honorable mention list is to your point, Mike. You have some men in there like Richard Grieco. I think you could throw him in there.
Oh yeah.
Matt Dillon's probably in that mix a little bit too. Pretty boy. He did it for Johnny, like as you remember. But I want to go with the 2000 girl, which not only we talk about, but Shannon Sossamon. I don't know if you ever knew who that actress is. She was in A Knight's Tale and 40 Days and 40 Nights and a movie called Rules of Attraction. She was kind of like a tougher, meaner version of Angelina Jolie. Looks kind of the same. She always played like the tough chick who was, spoken behind the high school. And she was like the ultimate 2000s it girl. And she just kind of gave up acting altogether. So I throw her in that list as an honorable mention for the 2000s, early 2000s. But I think for I could put Lori Petty in there probably as well. So she's in there. Rachel Lee Cook. But I'm going to go with my final pick would be Bridget Fonda. She was, because we talked about her just recently in The Godfather. She played that short role where she played a reporter that was briefly romanced by Andy Garcia. But she was in several movies. Very big movies, Single White Female being one of them, in the Jackie Brown, where she made ill-fated end with Robert De Niro. She married Danny Elfman, Mike.
Oh my gosh, really?
And after she got married, she just gave up, just left the whole scene altogether. But for a time there, she was on my hot list for a long while. She was just a very attractive young lady, great actress, and she's a Fonda. So there you go. Nepotism notwithstanding, she did a lot of great roles. So I'm going to go with Bridget Fonda as my last of my 90s ingenues, Mike. So there you go.
That's right. And it just hit me. Could you tell a difference between Kimberly Williams and Michelle Monaghan?
Nope.
Okay. they look exactly alike.
Yeah. But I thought with your affiliation with the Steve Martin movie.
Oh no! Don't even say that stupid touchstone crap.
I can't say it out loud, but she's in that. Okay. All right. So I think we've kind of hit bottom here, Mike. I don't think we got too creepy there.
We're about 2,000 feet in a copper mine.
We'll just take the river right up. No problem.
There you go. Just fall right in it.
All right, so if you managed to last this long, we commend you. Also remind you can check out more about our show on our Instagram page. That's at Grumpy Nostalgia. You can send us an email at nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. You can check out our YouTube channel if you decide to. Not a lot of people do. Don't feel bad. We don't take it personally. Working on that still. We're still waiting to get some ideas from you guys about what podcast you would like to see enhanced, like a video companion. So shoot us an email on that. Or you can, better yet, use the Buzzsprout link if you're listening through our webpage on Buzzsprout. If you look under the title, there is a send us a message link. You can click on that. Just tell us how bad these shows are getting, because we need all the help we can get, creative criticism or not. So that would be great to hear from you. So please do that, guys. So Mike, I think that's going to kind of wrap it up for this show. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Down, 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 down. Down, 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 down.
I can't take it anymore. That's what give me a concussion, Mike. You know what a concussion is? It's when your brain's pressing against your thumb and it feels like this. Stupid Travolta. Oh boy. All right, it's time for bed, Mike.
Time to go to bed.
Time for go to bed.
This is we're getting worse and worse, aren't we? All right, guys, thanks for listening to us. So for Mike James, this is Justin, and we will see you again next time.
Ain't it cool?
Ain't it cool? Stupid Travolta.
Very nicely done. Almost as good as me.